Hello everyone, Aaron Naboos here, and welcome to the Hall H Show. As some of you know, I'm one of the brand ambassadors for the International Mobile Film Festival. This festival is an annual celebration of mobile filmmaking that is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. For some, it may seem like making movies on your smartphone has only been trending fairly recently, but my guest for this episode, Susy Botello, has been promoting the possibilities of mobile filmmaking I think since the first iPhone came out in 2007, though I'm sure maybe even before that. She's the owner of SBP Productions, founder of the International Mobile Film Festival, the voice for mobile film as a host of the SBP Podcast, a frequent guest of the Hall H Show, and a spokesperson for San Diego's fish taco industry. Welcome back to the show, Susy.
I'm the ambassador of the fish tacos in San Diego, actually.
There you go.
Hi, Aaron. Hello, Aaron listeners.
Welcome back. It's good to have you on.
Yeah, you know this. I've been on your show before. I love our usual location of Lestat. I think in the past we've even talked about recording in airport lobbies or something, even just for background purposes. But yeah, this is different. It's the COVID way, right?
There you go. And yeah, 10 years. Can you believe it? I mean, we'll just start off right off the bat with, talking about the International Mobile Film Festival. What are your thoughts on the last 10 years of the festival? And I guess, mobile filmmaking in the last 10 years?
My thoughts are, wow, that went by fast. I think it's because I'm so connected to the mobile filmmaking community. It just seems like that's a word, right? The mobile filmmaking community. But to me, it brings to mind a bunch of people, from the beginning, even before the first film festival, all the way through today, really. So it brings a lot of stories to mind. It brings a lot of, what do you call them? Not really achieving goals but a lot of remarkable moments.
I'm sure, like making those initial connections that were necessary for the festival to grow and even to start.
Yeah, definitely. And to keep it going, 3 years of, from the idea, right, to get the, people to submit films, films for the big screen, not, just, hey, just shoot something, type thing. And then to find a venue, that would trust me, right, Susy Botello, to believe that if I believed it and that my vision was worth believing in, they could support me by helping me with a venue, to present these films, roll out the red carpet, and host a film festival. So,
do you remember like the aha moment that you had when you sort of decided, yes, I'm gonna create this International Mobile Film Festival?
Well, the whole thing came up back after 9/11, and it was just sort of brewing in my mind. I kind of saw it from the distance, right? But things were connecting together before I had the whole idea, right? And I think it was when, I did think about doing an actual film festival for quote unquote cell phone movies, right? Back in 2005, 2006, at about the same time that YouTube came out.
Oh, I see.
And but it wasn't really ready yet. The thing is that I was more than ready, because I could see this really more vividly by then. And so it's just really weird because it was like, should I, no, it's just going to be a website at that point if I did it online. So I thought, it wasn't really ready for the big screen, the movies to do that. And so I waited. But I think it was in 2009 when I was during a blizzard in Big Bear Mountain working on a film set, which I had one of the most memorable experiences ever working with my filmmaking family, right? And not having anything to do with mobile phones. And there was one of the members of the crew, I think he was a PA, a production assistant, and he had this big wad of papers, in his back pocket. And I said, I was a production coordinator at the time. And so I said, and one of the things that you do is you prepare the call sheets for each day. And I said, are you collecting all the call sheets for some reason at once, like just putting them each in your back pocket? He says, oh, what do you mean? I said, what is that? All these papers that you have in your back pocket. And he says, oh, that's my screenplay. And he pulls out his screenplay. He really excitedly wants me to read it. And I think I read about half a page. And it sounded good, right from the beginning. And I said, well, you should make this film. And he said, yeah, well, that's why I have it in my back pocket. He said, I'm hoping to meet somebody here who can help me make this movie. And I said, well, I'm sure you can get people to help you, And he says, yeah, but I need money. I don't have a camera, all this stuff. And he started making this list. And I said, but you got the screenplay. You got the heart of it, right? And he was like, yeah, but, I need all this other stuff and I don't have the funding and all this. And I could see that his feelings were like he was stepping on himself, right? Stepping all over his own dream, sort of speak, because I don't believe that people just carry things like that in their back pocket and get so excited unless they're really sort of passionate about it, right? And I've always had this thing in me. I was working in video production, and I always wanted to bring in people to help them realize what they wanted to do, their dream of. It's a tough world in video production, this industry.
Yeah.
Tough world to get into in our world, right? And so, I went home and a few things, happened here and there. And I thought, what? I kept thinking about that moment. And I thought, what? I think we're ready. I think I'm going to launch it. I think I'm going to do it, And I went to the office the next week. And, after I got home, I took a few days off to rest from that whole experience because it really was, 16-hour days type thing and working, 6 days a week for 3 weeks straight. And so I went to the office and I was, working, and this one guy comes up behind me. His name is Yensi. And he says, oh, what you doing, Susy Q? And I said, you know what? I'm thinking about starting a film festival where all the movies are shot with mobile phones. And he says, really? He says, you ought to do it. You should just do it. Just do it, Susy. Do it. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I literally just got on there, when I got home, got online and started really putting things together.
That's incredible.
It's a long story. I'm sorry.
I can listen to your stories all night. Actually, you tell good stories.
I don't think I've shared this one with you to that extent. Yet,
I don't think so. Yeah. The theme for this year's festival is your story. What does that mean to you?
Well, that's part of my gift. In the way that I'm saying to you, meaning everyone, right? Your story. Give me your story. share it with me, and I'll share it with everybody I can from my film festival, because your story means something, and it means something to you. And if it means something to you, you're going to make a movie out of it, because that's not an easy thing to do. And if you do that, you know, you can trust me. I'll put it out there. I'll share it with everyone, and I will value it as if it was my story. Because I think this year, especially, you know, over the last couple years, but we're not really done with 2021 yet. But from 2020, literally a year ago, right, this last month and this month, we all sort of came together. I know a lot of bad things happened, but it brought a lot of people together through stories and connected a lot of us through our stories. And so I thought that would be a great theme this year.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I'm wondering, has it gotten easier, you know, trying to, I guess, motivate and inspire people to share their stories, but not only share their stories, but use video and specifically the smartphone to empower their story? Has it gotten easier throughout the years?
Well, from my perspective, yeah, because I don't have to really explain too much about it. You know, I don't have, you know, I'll say to somebody, you know, you can make a movie with that phone you're holding in your hand. It doesn't come as a surprise. Like I have to explain that, you know, like, oh, yes, you can see, you know, that kind of stuff. So in that sense, it's become easier. I think people are just naturally doing it. So I don't really have to tell them per se. I think what I talk about when I bring this topic up with people, and which I do all the time, I was just talking to my ISP, you know, provider the other day, and we started talking about it. So it's not something I don't talk about anymore, but I do. And it always brings an in-depth conversation that goes back to the story. You know, you have this way. It's not just about making movies. It's about the storytelling part. You know, you have a way that you can share your story through film, which is one of the best ways to share a story. I mean, I could talk all night about that one, about why I think so, but I think a lot of people can understand why that is, you know, why they can sit in a room filled with strangers in the dark watching a movie for, I don't know, how long is the Lord of the Rings movie? 4.5 hours or something?
At least. I mean, long enough that I had to use the bathroom in the middle of the movie.
Right? So, yeah, it's just one of those, it's an escape. It really is. It's an escape from our reality, our own being, into another world or another person. And you don't have to, your mind doesn't have to work on it, you know? You don't have to imagine anything. You just have to kick back, maybe chomp on some popcorn,
All right.
slurp on something to drink, and, you know, the whole thing just takes over you. You know, it's really easy. Even kids can do it.
Right. I guess my main point of that question was, almost everybody around the world has a smartphone, but I don't think a lot of them, unless they're doing social media or they're doing a lot of selfies and documentation, really think about actually making a narrative story using their phone.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I bring that to not what you can do with your phone, but how you can use your phone to share your story as a film. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, if somebody actually had a narrative story that they've written, and they're ready to proceed to the next step of making it with their smartphone, what are maybe 3 tips that you think would be helpful for them?
Well, the first tip is to, once you have a story in mind, is to put it together in some format, like a screenplay, mm-hmm. at least, right? And and write it for shooting it on a phone. You remember Steve Palmer Peterson, right, from our film festival?
Yes, I do remember him.
Yeah, he's an accomplished screenwriter, like literally. He's got some films, Assimilate, which is on Netflix,
right.
And a few others. And so one of the things he said on my podcast, he said, if you write your screenplay to shoot it with a phone, your movie's going to get made. Because the thing is, like, for screenwriters, they write screenplays, and the hardest part is not writing the screenplay, is having someone make a movie out of that, And so when you write a screenplay, right, for a phone, you're minimizing the budget that it takes to make that film. I doubt that you're going to have train crashes and airplanes falling out of the sky and a lot of that stuff that people, can imagine, right? And you think more frugal, I suppose. And so you really should write that story up in a way that that you can shoot it. Because after all, you're writing it for you, right? Or maybe a friend to shoot it with a phone. So really, it opens up a lot of possibilities because of the size of the phone, of what you can do. And at the same time, it expands your vision to, to say, hey, you could tie a phone up to a balloon, if you wanted to. You can, tie it up to, hook it up to a wheelchair, and go to the back and just wheel that thing around if you wanted to, if you don't have money for a gimbal or something. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with the phone that are much harder to do and much riskier to do with a camera. So that would be the first thing, is that when you write your story into a screenplay, that you write it remembering that you're going to shoot this and that you're going to use a phone to do it. The other thing is to start assembling your team, your crew. And we're not talking about 150 people like on that film set where I was. We're talking about just, the bare minimum, right? And to start reaching out to people. And I believe that half of that is in your phone right now by opening up Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and just sharing, hey, I want to make a movie. Who wants to, this? I need a location. Who can get me a location? Does anyone have a kid's room I can borrow for a day, for this one scene? Or does anyone know where I can get a pair of red pants for my character, size 11, I don't know, whatever. And so there are a lot of things like that you can start doing once you have your story ready. And then the next thing to do is to start practicing, and that shouldn't really be the next thing. You can constantly practice your shots, even as you're writing. You've written a few scenes today, let's say, and you have some ideas of how that scene could look by just literally picking up your little window, your phone, and start shooting stuff and practicing and seeing how it would look from a cinematographer's point of view. Is pretty much point and shoot. Those are just three, I suppose, maybe that come up at the moment.
Well, I think those are really helpful. I mean, especially for somebody who's just starting out,
Yeah, I hope so, because trying to come up with three good things to get started on and to consider,
Right. Exactly.
Also, another thing that you should consider is audio. It's really, really important. And so if you happen to have a friend who's maybe a musician that has audio equipment, that is more experienced with that, and could probably even provide, someone who's in a band or something could provide some of the music that you can use in your film, and give them some exposure too. Remember, your team is going to be fairly small, so there's room for promoting, that small group of people very easily.
Right. I know this year's festival will be virtual again, but why is having an actual red carpet at the live event important to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's always been from day one. That's been really important to me. I didn't even know how to get a red carpet for my film festival before. I really had to contact a lot of events people and say, what do you get a red carpet? And, because I was calling around and it was hard. It's important to me to have the red carpet event because I had an experience. So I shot a film for Mickey. Remember Mickey? So I shot one of her films. She made me the DP. And she said, we were at the Temecula International Film and Music Film Festival, or Music and Film Festival, or whatever it was called. And she says they were riding in a Rolls Royce to the red carpet. And there were all these people on each side of the red carpet, and there was the local TV station was there and all this stuff. And I did not want to get in the Rolls Royce. I was like, no, that's for you. You guys were the actors, and and she was also the director and the writer. Well, Mickey, right?
Right.
And so she literally pushed me to walk on this red carpet, and I was embarrassed about it, kind of, because I was like, oh, come on, Mickey, it's just me, and I'm walking this red carpet, and she's loving it. She's so glamorous, and she's like walking the red carpet and just soaking in. Everybody's like, yay, and cheering and everything. And I walk, behind her, and this woman grabs my arm pretty harsh, actually, to get me and pulled me over and says, and I notice she's holding a microphone and there's this big, huge television camera next to her. And she's like, so what's it feel like? Something about, you shot this film and you're the DP and blah, blah, blah. And I don't even remember what happened. I was like a deer caught in the headlights type of a thing. I don't know what I said. I don't know. But that whole experience, when I got to the end of the red carpet, right before we went into the theater, this one girl from another film that I had worked on, her family was there. And she's like, hey, I know her. Hey, Susy. Hey, I know her. And she was so excited. And I thought later, when I was doing my film festival, that's an experience that makes you feel like you really accomplished something. I got to give that to the filmmakers, and that's the Hollywood treatment, what I'm saying, to do the red carpet.
Right.
So that's why it was a big deal for me, and to make a big show out of it from the start. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And with that, we'll start talking about the festival. This year, you have 53 movies. You have 3 features and 50 shorts, which I think is incredible.
Me too.
I think that's the most ever, right?
Yeah. Well, the most that I've ever selected.
Mm-hmm.
I just went, what do they call it? Well, I better not. I get those things all screwed up sometimes. But yeah, I just went like, whatever. I really chose as many as I could. And then I had to leave a few behind because I was going, wow, 50 films. And I was trying to knock some of them out, actually. I don't know if I should be saying this, but I was trying to knock some of them out because I felt like it was too many. But I couldn't. I just couldn't, So, yeah, I think everyone will enjoy all of these films.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure the judges had a hard time trying to pick the winner or the winners.
Yeah, and that's the other reason why I was trying to knock some of them out because, the judges are not being paid for this. They're volunteering. And, we had a couple of judges that are in the film industry who are very busy. working on projects. One of them does theaters, live theaters, and films, and the other one does a lot of film work. And so, and I'm talking
come on,
about
how cool is it to have two dwarves from The Hobbit being judges for your film festival, and also they're also ambassadors now. So I mean,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It is. I'm talking about Mark Hadlow and Jed Brophy from the Hobbit films, Nori and Dory. Or actually, Dory and Nori, in that order that I named them. But they, them, but honestly, the other judges as well, they're busy people. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to, I never want to really impose on them. So I'm trying not to overload them, And there's a deadline for them to, get everything done for me, too. So... yeah, it's a tough thing. So yeah, having these the judges do their thing, with the rating. There's 2 competitions, so there's 2 panels. One's for the feature films, and the other one is for the short films. And so I didn't want them to be overloaded and overwhelmed with films to rate them all. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing.
So I guess Mark Hadlow and Kimberly Hart were the judges for the feature films?
Yes, you got your list. Awesome.
And Jed Brophy, Demetrius Witherspoon, and Shola, how do you say her last name?
Ayahi.
Were judges for the shorts. And how did you...
And Nathan Bechtold.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Nathan.
That's okay.
sorry, missed
and we know him, too.
And Nathan Bechtold. And obviously, some of these people. Actually, you probably know all of them. But
I do.
How did you?
You know Nathan. You know Kimberly,
right?
Yeah,
I met them personally. How do you actually decide who you want to be judges for the festival?
So what I do is I make random calls. No, I'm just kidding. Actually that's one of the toughest things that I do for the festival, because let's face it, people are submitting films. They want to be a part of the festival. They want to see them screened. They want all that, but it is a competition. So, that's really tough to do. It's not really a secret of how I do it. I basically go through the people that I know and the people that, God, to be honest with you, it's more of who would I like if I was a filmmaker to be a judge and watch my film? Mm-hmm. Where would I feel, who could handle my film, right? And I would feel that I could trust them with my film and rating my film, And then I go, from my perspective, who are the people that I feel that I don't have to educate them on how to judge films, because they know what a good film is, right? They value films. These are people with integrity, and that's how I select them, if that makes any sense.
Right.
And also who may have the time or be willing to say, yeah, okay, Susy, we'll do it.
but definitely a lot of thought on your part definitely goes into it, and I know how passionate you are about these things, and you want to make sure that you do a good job picking the right judges for the festival.
Yeah.
But also, I saw that you shared something on Twitter earlier today concerning one of the sponsors, Engraving Pros, about the awards.
Yeah. So today I contacted them to make sure they got the email with the names.
Right.
And wouldn't it be great, Aaron, if I could share on your show who the winners are?
I wasn't going to ask.
No, and I'm not going to tell you.
not even for the best fish tacos in the world.
Not even. Actually, it's kind of funny. I was joking about something similar, and I won't mention who or anything, but they said, what if I give it? I was joking, and I said, only for $1 billion. And they said, darn, I only have 999,000. I'm like, phew. That was my reaction, because I would have still had to turn that down. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal for me. Actually, I was, Clubhouse. Been doing a lot of Clubhouse lately.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that later on in the podcast, but we can go ahead and get into it now if you want to.
Well, I just wanted to, something I shared today was about the suitcase, the special Mission Impossible type suitcase that I used to have, which got thrashed ultimately. But that suitcase was this old leather spy-looking suitcase from like the 40s or something. A friend of mine gave it to me, and he had it, and I was like, oh my God, I love that suitcase, blah, blah, blah. And so I used to bring that to the first, I think it was all the way through 2015 or something. I used to bring that suitcase to each film festival, and I would put the trophies in there and the certificates in there, and I would, march around with it and wouldn't let it out of my sight, make a big deal out of it, Anybody know be careful with that suitcase, top secret stuff in there, And people would ask, especially the filmmakers, so what's in that suitcase, Susie? I'm like, it's a big secret. I can't share it with you. It's the winners, the trophies and the names, the certificates. And they're like, oh. And they would try to really work on me throughout the festival, the days of the film festival, trying to get me to give them even a hint, and I wouldn't. And it was always a lot of fun. Kind of build my secrecy muscles.
Right. Don't worry, I won't try to pry the winners out of you.
Oh, I dare you to even try.
Now, we were talking about Engraving Pros. There are other sponsors for this year's festival. Do you want to go ahead and talk about them?
Yeah, sure. I really want to talk about actually Engraving Pros first, because they've been sponsoring our film festival from the very first year. Well, they haven't been sponsoring the film festival from the very first year, but they've been freaking awesome, Aaron, from the very first year. There have been times when I couldn't get the answers to them. I remember one year it was like the day before, that night before. And they literally said, don't worry, Susie, we'll get them for you. And the night before the film festival, I ran over there and picked up the trophies. So they've always been really awesome. And the thing is that I'm not that special. They are really good with their customers as well. So, if you happen to be anywhere in San Diego, they're at Grossmont Center. And Engraving Pros is their name. They're a small company, kind of like a family, place. And they are amazing people. I love them. They're like family to me practically, and every time I walk in there, I just get a lot of smiles. So now we do have other sponsors. And one of them that's also been with us for quite some time now is Film Convert. They're the ones giving the software prizes for the the winners of the film festival. And I actually, do you mind if I read something? I was talking to John Parker.
Not at all. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was telling him I was going to be on a podcast, and so he had just sent me an email, and I wanted to read this to your listeners, because your listeners are very creative too, and I know you've got a lot of filmmakers, and their software isn't just, it's literally for all filmmakers, all cameras, okay?
Right.
But they're working with mobile films as well. So here's what he wrote. It said, Film Convert is bringing Hollywood level... Let me start that over. Film Convert is bringing Hollywood level color science to the iPhone. Coming soon, they'll be adding a new camera pack support for the iPhone 12 in both Film Convert Nitrate and their new camera matching tool, Cinematch. The camera packs will allow you to work with footage from both the native Apple camera app and the new Filmic Pro log V3 profile and will make grading your iPhone footage and integrating it with footage from other cameras much faster and easier. So they're asking that you check out Film Convert and Cinematch on their websites and social media for updates. And that's Film Convert. Okay.
Awesome.
So,
that sounds like exciting news for making sure that the color is consistent in your mobile movies.
Yeah, and that's part of the post-production process that all films go through for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what gives a lot of films the cinematic look and feel of a movie, and the tone, which the tone plays into as part of the story. I don't know if you've heard this before, but like films that have a green color to it are usually scientific sci-fi films, futuristic films,
like Alien, basically.
Aliens, yes, and things like that. So that's just, something to know. There's also Naboos Media. I don't know.
Who's that?
Where they are. I know, right? So why don't you share a little bit about Naboos Media? I'll let everybody know part of what you're doing for us for your sponsorship, but I think you should describe your company.
Yeah, Naboos Media is me. I started freelancing full time, and so I created a company for myself, and Susy's, I guess, one of my first few clients. And this year, for sponsorship, I decided to help her with the program this year. This year's program is the 10th anniversary commemorative program, and I'm hoping to make something that's pretty cool and collectible, I guess. So there's that, and I'm just looking forward to getting that design out of the way, because the festival is just
around the corner.
Yeah, it's just literally around the corner, a few weeks away.
Yeah. I'm going to officially, even though we just passed on the 4th, but officially and publicly wish Aaron a happy birthday.
Thank you.
April 4th. Thank you. Yeah, happy birthday, Aaron.
Thank you so much.
So another sponsor is Swords and Circuitry Studios from San Diego. They are Neil and Jana Halford. And they do, well, you know what they do. You know them very well, just like I do.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I just put you in the spot with your wonderful voice?
Well, yeah, they
make
these incredible audio dramas, similar to what I guess if you can imagine Twilight Zone, but like an audio version, then that's what they create. And I know both Susy and myself, we both attended panels at Comic-Con where they showcased some of their audio dramas, and wow, the production value is just incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that they also do, Neil was involved with the gaming community.
That's right.
In designing, and he does a lot of visual effects and things like that as well. So, that's just part of what they do. I think very creative. But anyways, those are our other sponsors this year.
And of course, getting the word out about the film festival, and also everything else that SBP does, is no small task. And I'm a proud ambassador for the festival, and I think I have been for the last 2 years. I think, right?
At least. Come to think of it,
seems longer,
it has been. Well, the thing is that you've been a friend of the festival, and one of the reasons that I made you ambassador is because you were practically the best person I could think of to be an ambassador, since you were promoting everything, and you were very engaged with the festival. And also, I mean, you got to remember with your podcast, you had me the first time I was a guest on a podcast, or even anything to do with a podcast.
That was all the way back in episode 4.
Right.
2016. Wow, that's a while back.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was the morning after. No, it was the evening after. This sounds bad to your listeners if we just stop there. It was the evening after Donald Trump got elected as president. So it was like, it was a zombie day, Zombieland Day or something. It was, I'll never forget that day because there was no one. I think everybody was in shock. No one was out anywhere. And remember, we went to Lestat's, the coffee shop, and there weren't that many people there. It was pretty mellow, but that was my first experience with the podcast with you. And after that, I contacted you to help me out to up the red carpet show. I was looking for Batman.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You wanted somebody to, I guess you wanted a
I wanted to play a hoax kind of type of a thing, a trick.
Yes, you were going to say something like, "Oh no, where are the awards?" And then, Batman, somebody dressed as Batman would come in and save the day, right? Is that how it went? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And then what ended up happening was that I guess Susy wanted to add some spice to the red carpet, and she asked me if I knew any cosplayers that were willing to come and do their thing on the red carpet. And luckily, I did know some cosplayers. I contacted a few, but Susy, Tracy, Hot Nerd Girl, messaged me back and said that she was willing to have her and the Star Wars Steampunk Universe cosplay group come in and represent, and they did, and it was such an awesome moment on the red carpet.
Yeah, it really, I can't tell you how much I really love and enjoy having them as part of the film festival, because they've done that ever since. And I hope that they'll be available next year to do it again. And, or maybe they're kids at this rate, because they keep doing this every year. Sean Richter, who was the first year in 2019, he was dressed as the Mandalorian. His son is also doing cosplay now with him. And there was Chase, right? At our film festival, who was just a kid. And he's now like a man, right?
Yeah, they're both probably taller than me now.
Oh yeah, it's just amazing. So yeah, let's keep the tradition alive.
Right.
There were other cosplayers. I've been introduced to a lot of the. I've always been fascinated by it. I used to go to Comic-Con at like 4 a.m. before they opened.
Well, we can't forget Dude Vader, right?
Of course not. But yeah, Dude Vader is he's like a celebrity,
right?
in the cosplay community. He really is. I'm amazed by Chris is his name, and what he does every day. Because Star Wars Steampunk Universe, they're not just a group of people playing around with costume. They are a charity. And they do these amazing things that I don't know how they can do that. I would break down and cry at every single event that they attend. They go to children's hospitals and cheer up children who are quite ill, and lighten them up. And that's, that's like an amazing gift, for the kids, but also for their parents,
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Sorry, I started thinking about that.
they definitely do a lot for charity, and I try to share, and rep them as much as possible, because they do such an awesome job with that. But going back to the festival, I knew we just got done talking about the sponsors, but we also mentioned that Jed Brophy and Mark Hadlow, not only were they judges this year, but they're also newly appointed ambassadors.
Since last year, I believe.
Yeah, and we also have Vesna. Where's she located again? Macedonia?
She's in Macedonia.
Right. Okay.
She travels a lot, though. Vesna Ristovska. She was the first.
Right.
And what happened? She was a liaison for the Mobile Festival in Macedonia, and she got in touch with me way back. I think it was like 2010 or 11. I literally kept ignoring her emails because they came in text format, and it was, she's a foreigner, right? So her English was not so good. So I didn't know what to make of it. And then I started, thank God that she kept pushing and emailing me, and not to urge people to do that, but she did. And I finally answered back, and I got to know her, and she's just been awesome, a really good supporter and everything. So she was our first ambassador. But I know where you're getting to as well, because this year I'm very excited to announce that Rich Visor is our newest ambassador, part of the SBP team. He's awesome. He's
a force of nature.
He really is, and he is up there. I'm talking television and film. He's working on a television series and a movie, and he's worked on two productions now with Jed Brophy and Mark Hadlow as well. So and winning awards. And he knows a lot of people. But outside of that, he's been a big supporter of the mobile filmmaking community. And so, I love the guy. I love all our ambassadors, Aaron. So, yeah. Don't let me go on too long for this.
Richard Rich is definitely a welcome addition to the team. And, hopefully one day... maybe next year we can have everybody in person here in San Diego.
Yeah, and let's not forget our executive producer, long-time friend of mine that we worked together years back, Lynn Lloyd.
Hey, Lynn.
He's in Palm Springs, and he has a background in public television in Washington, D.C., and there's a lot about him. I mean, to be honest, why do I keep saying that? Like I've been lying throughout the whole time.
I know.
I do that all the time.
I'm going to start second guessing you now. I'm joking.
If you go to our website, there's a page, SBP Team, and you can read about Aaron and Lynn, myself. You can skip that if you want. Jed, and Mark. You can read about everybody there on that page. So all the details.
Right. And speaking of details, we haven't mentioned the date for this year's festival yet. It's April 23rd and the 25th.
It's tomorrow.
Not tomorrow. 2021. It's basically the last weekend of April. And
it always is.
Right, always.
I have to point that out. Yeah, because people will say, "When is it next year?" I'm like, the last weekend of April every year.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And I know you're still working on the finer elements of the programming. But
yes,
is there any updates that you'd like our audience to know about?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I can't tell you who won. But yeah, look, if you go to MFF2021sandiego.com, you'll find a lot of the details on that program event page. You can find out about every single film that's going to be presented at the film festival. You can find out what the films are about, who is in it, the key cast. You can find out the country that they're representing, like the Olympics. And you can find out what phone even they shot it with. All on that page, along with some more information as well. And MFF 2021 San Diego is also our hashtag for this year's film festival. Our main hashtag is Mobile Film SD. And you should follow us on Instagram, by the way, Mobile Film SD, because could never have enough followers there. I love all the social media platforms. You know that, Aaron. I have a lot of fun interacting with everyone there.
Yeah,
I get really excited when someone makes a comment or something anywhere.
I guess I also want to talk about the SBP podcast. Obviously, podcasting is a great way to connect with a certain audience. But I kind of want to dig deep and find out why you wanted to start the SBP podcast specifically, and why did you feel the urge to start it, and was there a particular moment that motivated you to do so?
You're going to get another story, right? So here's the thing. So video, right? When people came to my film festival, and believe me, they were coming from different countries, faraway countries. And I was thinking, okay, I'll shoot a video and interview them on a video. And then later I'll publish that video and we'll have a video interview, something more in depth. It's very hard to do that with filmmakers. It's very hard to do that during a film festival event when everyone wants to talk and hang out and network. And this is aside from watching the films and the Q&A panels and all that stuff. It just gets very hard to do. And the reason why the first thing I said is very hard to get filmmakers on camera for an interview for the most part is because they like to be behind the camera. So some of them are more used to that, but others are a little bit more shy when it comes to that. So one of the best ways to really share an in-depth conversation with someone is to call them up on the phone and just have a phone conversation. And I literally did do things like that with a lot of the filmmakers anyways, because, these are friends of mine. They become my friends. We all become like family, right? We call each other up and check in on each other, and we start talking about, we know that we're passionate about this topic. So we start talking. And so after going on Aaron's podcast, I thought, if Aaron can do it, I can do it.
Exactly.
But of course, and you remember this, I went through so much research. The good thing about the research was that the more difficult that I found it to be, the more control or the more comfortable I felt, right? The more confidence that I gained about actually doing it. Because, like, for example, scuba diving, right? You don't just jump in the water with a tank on. You probably will die if you just do that. And so you learn. And as you're learning, you're realizing, well, this isn't as easy as I thought it would be, just jumping in the water with a tank. This is a little more complicated. But as you're learning it, you gain confidence in doing it. And I think that's what happened. And then I was eager because I had a long list. I think you remember that I was reading off a list. Oh, I'm going to interview this person and that person and that person. And at first it did start out as interviews, and then it just became recording our phone conversations, basically. And but also with the skill in mind, of this is a podcast. This is going to be published, and it's for people who are listening. And the people who are listening are part of the mobile filmmaking community or people who are interested in this, right? And so I do keep them as a part of the podcast as well. So what made me start it was that need, because also there was no other podcast dedicated to the mobile filmmaking community. And I decided to give them a voice other than, just social media and the film festival and promoting them in this way and writing articles. I used to write these big articles on them. They weren't like Q&A articles. They were like, I would ask them questions, they would email me, and then I would write an actual narrative article with quotes from them. So anyways, after doing all that, I thought that podcast would be perfect for it. And so when I started it, I remember I was telling Aaron, I keep reading that if I get through 6 episodes, I should be clear. And I thought that was silly because at any point you could give up,
right?
But here we are now. As of today, there are 96 episodes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations for having.
Can you believe how many people that is that actually sat down with me and discussed
I know,
things?
It's incredible.
That's the incredible part.
I think about it all the time, and I personally I don't take it for granted because I value.
You have one.
I have one, but I also value each conversation that I have. Each one is special in its own way, and I think that shines in your podcast because, I've read more comments, more than just one comment online, and as it pertains to your podcast, and people have called it, easily bingeable and inspirational, and I know you don't want to take credit for it, but I think you do deserve some credit, and I hope you understand that.
Well, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do to podcast. I mean, you and I know that. For people who are listening, it just seems like, oh, I'm just listening into a conversation on the phone type thing, right?
Right.
So it does take a lot of work, but I think the best part of it is, like these comments that you were talking about, it's not like they're commenting and giving me like quote unquote reviews on Apple or something, right? These are things that people will just say on like Twitter, right? Because I think I'm more on Twitter than anywhere else lately.
Me too.
Yeah, it's just fun. But these are the things that people say there, and sometimes they'll message me, and things like that, and I get to hear that, and that just that inspires me to I enjoy doing it. I know that it does. I hope that it does something good for the filmmakers. I mean, I've had a few filmmakers after the discussion, right? A few of the guests say, I learned from the questions and the topics that we spoke as well. They learn about themselves even, from that process. It's kind of like when you have a problem, remember on the old TV shows, I have a problem. And so then they start to spell out their problem to someone and then they go, oh, never mind. Thank you very much for the answer. Now I got it all figured out. And it's just a matter of voicing it out, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's hard for me to take credit for things. I've just always been, I had a friend a long time ago who said, Susy, you don't know how to, when someone says, you don't know how to accept a compliment very well. This is really personal for me. I'm sharing it with you. And I go, well, I don't know what to say. Like, what do you say when someone says really something that kind or whatever? And she says, just say thank you. And I'm like, all right, thank you. So thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome. But you do have awesome guests too, and I think you bring out the best in them.
Oh yeah, they're everything. I mean, if you had to just listen to me through I've had a few solos, but no, it's definitely the guests.
I feel the same way. I mean, I I always want to share
You've
it.
never had a solo episode, have you?
Me? No, I haven't, to be honest with I mean,
You should try it out sometime.
it only probably lasts 5 minutes.
Well, you're still talking to your listeners.
Yeah.
That's the only way. I've done a few of those because I felt like I wanted to share something. And when you can't share it with your guests, because, after all, it is about them, right? So it's really hard to sometimes. And I felt like I got to do a solo podcast because I want to share something that's more in depth than during a conversation. So I've done that, I think, like 3 or 4 times now.
It's
But
funny
I
you
think
mentioned
you
that.
should do it.
Yeah, it's funny you do mention that because I have been thinking about it. Yeah, it's food for thought. I think I will do it at some point.
Good. Do it. Do it.
I guess we'll take a break and do a thunder round, our round of random questions. The first one is, why did you name your dog Tico?
That is really random. Totally unexpected. He's actually at my feet right now.
Hey, Tico!
I took off his collar. So he doesn't jingle too much. I named him, so he was in Texas. He was one of I think it was 13 or 16 puppies. And I know this is going to sound like, what was the name of that show? Stranger Things. He was literally number 9. So his name was 9. And I had to select a name for him before he came because he was just a little newborn, right? I love puppies and kitty cats. I couldn't think of a name. And then all of a sudden one day, so I had a cat named Mickey. And I also had another kitty cat that I adopted. His name was Pucky because it happened to be the name he chose. Literally, he was hiding behind the other end of the couch and we were playing tag type thing. And I kept naming him things and he wasn't really responding. And I said, "Hey, Pucky." And he looked at me like, "Yeah, I like that one." So that was his name. So for some reason, Pucky and Tico kind of chimed along together pretty well. So then I Googled it to make sure I wasn't naming my dog some bad word from somewhere. And yeah. So, but a lot of people, when they hear his name Tico, they think his name is Chico. They're like, "Hey, Chico." And I'm like, dude, that's not his name. So, yeah, there it goes. So it's Tico. It's just a random, made up name, kind of.
How do you spell it?
Tiko. Tiko.
All right, cool.
Like KO, like knockout.
What was it like growing up in Spain? And I guess, can you describe some of your favorite tapas also?
Oh, my God. All the tapas. What was the first part of the question? You said tapas. I forgot.
What was it like growing up in Spain?
Well, it was pretty awesome, actually. You wake up and have an adventure every day for the most part. Just because it was so carefree, There was no stranger danger over there like over here. I think one of the worst thing that I heard of was, all my aunts and uncles there, right? They were like the big family things, right? All the time. But they were in Sevilla, in the city, and we were off of a beach town. And there was a railroad around the corner, right? There was a slaughterhouse, which I hated, right across the way. There was a big field and a deserted beach down below. And the scariest thing that I heard of was some girl got abducted by aliens in that field.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, well, chances of that happening. So there really was no fear. I was an adventure. I would get up. I had a dog whose name was Charlie, who followed me everywhere. No leash, no nothing. And my life was great. My grandmother always lived with us when we were living in Spain because, my father was American. And she would always give me some money to go, go down the street to a kiosk and get a lollipop and a comic book. And just had a lot of outings. My parents were very, my dad had a press pass as well. He was in the Marines, and then he worked in civil service. So he worked in communications, and he had a press pass. And so they went out and did nightclubs, and he got into everywhere he wanted to with that press pass.
Wow.
And so they had a good life and things like that, but they also enjoyed traveling a lot. And a lot of times we went along too, and we made a lot of trips from that small town down along the coast in the southern part of Spain down to the center where Sevilla is. And then in the summers, it gets really hot in Sevilla. So all my cousins and aunts and uncles would come we lived in villas, and they would rent a villa, like next door or whatever. And we would spend the entire day at the beach. It was really, if you think about it. So I would walk with my grandmother to the house from the beach to bring back these things of food. And they would sit down with like a picnic table, right, on the sand with umbrellas, and we would eat like a whole, like dishes and everything. It was crazy. It's like a whole meal. But we lived on the beach practically. It was great. A lot of fun. I love Spain. I could share a million stories about what it was like to live there. It's definitely different than here.
Yeah, it's definitely more carefree than I can imagine than living here.
More things to do in a day, too. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to visit Spain because I've heard you talk about tapas in the past, and I've watched videos online about Spain, and I definitely want to check it out myself.
You like your Comic-Con fit, right?
Yes.
So in Spain, I literally I walk miles and miles and miles. No, you don't even notice it because the ambiance of the city there. And what's happening. There's so much happening out on the streets, I suppose the only relation to that would be like maybe walking down New York or something like that, downtown New York or something. But it's a little more, it's different, definitely different. But it's that ambience and all the things to see and all the things to experience, and the fact that you can walk into a little bar, and the bars there are not like the bars here. The bars here are very much more for adults and alcohol and stuff like that. The bars there are more like Starbucks, except for they serve beer and tapas, right? And you go to this bar, you have a couple of tapas and a beer, and then you walk down about a mile down and you have another tapas and beer, and you keep going this way, and you're walking off your tapas and your beer as you're walking from one to the other. It's just
sounds like
awesome.
Fun. I could do that all day.
It is. And then the crowd, and then the people that you pick up along the way, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you start out by yourself, right? And there's no shame in that there, by the way. Walking, and I don't have shame doing that here either, but over there, it's very typical for you to walk out by yourself and go somewhere and have a beer and have a tapa. And then as soon as you go out and you're going to the other place, you meet up with somebody. Somebody happens to be there and they're like doing the same thing. So you all just kind of go together. And then some of their friends, are running. And then, so the group keeps growing. And next thing you know, you're like 12 people walking into a bar. Hey, what's up? Let's have some tapas. It's
wow,
great.
that sounds like so much fun.
It is. I miss it.
I guess we'll stay on the topic of food. What's one dish that you love to cook that makes you feel happy?
I don't know. Honestly, just the act of cooking makes me feel happy. Actually, tasting the food that I cooked and go, damn, that's good. And I feel like I'm gloating here, but yeah, I love cooking. I've always loved cooking. There's one thing that I don't make enough, thank God. I I have a really good reputation for making some pretty awesome spaghetti sauce. And I use wine a lot with my cooking. Most of the wine and alcohol in my house is really just for cooking. I love cooking a lot, so it's really hard to pin that one down. I also use a pressure cooker, like the traditional, pressure cooker. Like the one, it's like, it's like a pot and it has a thing and it goes and the pressure on it and stuff like that.
Like from I Love Lucy.
Yeah, like one of those. But it's great. I use it for cooking a lot of chicken and things like that because everything just gets done in no time and the chicken just falls off the bones type thing. It's just great. A lot of people that you might be listening to this are vegetarians, so I don't want to go too far there.
If you could play any video game right now, which one would you play?
I used to love to. I have an 360.
Xbox 360?
I still have it. I don't have it hooked up. I don't have a TV anymore. But I used to literally drag people into the house and say, play GT4 or anything on my Xbox. And because it's like, for me, watching a movie and being in control. Grand Theft Auto was pretty fun. Because you can literally go walk through that wall, knock that down, just do anything on that one.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you had the ability to time travel, who is someone that you would want to have a conversation with?
Really? Time travel. So obviously this would be from the past because we don't know who would be in the future, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, there are some people who will get older by then. No, but from the past, it's kind of hard to... There is definitely Heath Ledger.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to hang out with Heath Ledger. There's a lot of people. I'm still amazed that Dick Van Dyke is still alive because I think he's like...
You're right. He is still alive.
He is. And the thing, I check up on him. I saw him. I went to Universal Studios. Let me see. 2004, I think it was. And I went and I was there at the hotel. I can't remember if it was the Sheraton or I think it was the Hilton. And he was doing something there. He was giving some sort of a talk for some reason. And I literally said hi. He walked by and I said hi to him and he said hi to me. And that was like, somebody I was with was like, don't you want to get his autograph? And I was like, no, man. This is my moment. I don't need an autograph. I don't need to prove it. That I'd love to be able to hang out with him too. At 95 or however old he is now.
I guess you can visit him at different ages in the past as well.
I know, right? Like chitty chitty bang, let's go for a flight.
Once again, thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. But your birthday is also coming up soon, later this April. If you could have any musician or band perform for you on your birthday, who would it be? And I think I know who it might be.
Well, let me tell you something. The fact that they decided they were going to end doesn't count.
Okay.
So Daft Punk for sure.
Right. I knew it.
Yeah.
What's one thing you hated as a child but love now as an adult? Like for me, I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like mushrooms as a kid, but I love mushrooms now.
For me, it's not really related to food.
Mm-hmm. Could be anything. Yeah.
I would have to say, so like I have no, okay, there's a lot about me that hasn't changed, right? As far as my personality and things like that, but I changed my mind. on things. I am allowed to change my mind in my opinions on things a lot. When I was a kid, I never thought that I would, because, I was telling you earlier that I loved the beach, right? And because I grew up on the beach, right? But the one thing that I always, when I thought about the mountains or anything like that, I always thought about bugs. And I just did not want to deal with bugs. And it also has to do with my mom, because my dad wanted to go camping a few times. And my mom was like, no, I'm not sleeping on the ground in some tent to get eaten by bugs and snakes and whatever she imagined. And so it's not that I hated it, but I was kind of like not into it. And then I always loved trees. I love trees. I love having trees around me. And when I was living up here in the mountains in what I call my own hobbit land, I fell in love with it. And, I would say my views on living up in mountains and in nature have changed a lot. I really enjoy that. I love being on top of somewhere looking down at what is down below type of a thing.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess my last question for the Thunder Round is, sort of segue to my next set of questions. What superpower do you wish you had?
The superpower to kill this freaking pandemic would be great. Yeah, I think I exercised it because, my birthday is on April 19th, right? Mm-hmm. So I had a chat with Biden and, the president. And I told him, for my birthday, I'll make everybody's wishes come true and make that vaccine available to everybody.
Awesome.
So he did.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
The next section of the podcast is superhero shout-outs. Is there a person or group of people that has helped you along the way that you'd like to thank? And also, is there an artist, writer, or other creative that you'd like our audience to check out?
Okay, so for the last part of that, go to mff2021sandiego.com and check out every single filmmaker in there.
Definitely.
Then go to our website and check out all the winners from the previous years. And then go to my podcast and see who I'm having conversations with. And just by listening to those conversations, you will realize all of these people are pretty freaking amazing and that you should follow them and that you should contact them somehow. And they usually say, contact me if you have any questions. So it's not like I'm, saying anything weird here. A lot of the people to your first part of the question, I want to thank my stepdad, who to me is my real dad, and has been my dad, Eurus, right? He is the most awesome person in my life, and I love him to death. And as a matter of fact, he picked up everything. He loves my mom so much. He picked up everything, sold their house and everything, and moved to Spain. Mm. So, and he's been there for the last couple years. So every time I talk with him on the phone, I really enjoy our conversations. I've always enjoyed our conversations since I was 10 or something when I first met him. And I love him so much that it's just unbelievable. And that I love my mom too, don't get me wrong. But he's just such an incredible person. And, he has a special big chunk of my heart because he's like the best dad in the world. He's more than I ever could have wished for.
Isn't he also a well-known guitar maker?
Yes, he is. But he's on to this podcast right now, so I can't tell you. I can't publicize a lot of the things I'd love to show off about him because he would hear it maybe, and then he would give me a hard time about it. But he does make guitars. He is the founder of the Blue Guitar Workshop in San Diego, and then you can just Google that, guys, and you'll read some of the things about him. They're pretty interesting.
Cool.
But I owe him a lot, I feel like.
Awesome.
His support means everything, so yeah.
All right. I guess we'll
I feel like I was gushing on my dad. Huh?
That's okay. I think one of these days I'm going to have to interview my parents on the podcast.
I've actually talked to him about interviewing him on a podcast.
Yeah.
And I kind of got the okay, a very hesitant okay. It's just a matter of finding the time to sit down with him because he's going to nitpick it to death. So, you know, it'll be a process.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm just thinking off the top of my head that the name of my podcast would be called Lucky because literally, I'm lucky to be alive because
I've read this. I've read this story.
Well, there's other stories, but my dad could have died quite a few times in the past. The first time was during World War II when the Japanese were invading the Philippines. He was in the efforts to scramble and you know sort of go into a safer area. He was left on the kitchen table, and if it wasn't for my grandma's sister,
when he was a baby,
he was just born. It was 1941. If it wasn't for my grandma's sister, who went back and got him, you know, he could have been one of those babies that were, you know, I don't want to. It's a bit gruesome, but at the time, the Japanese were tossing babies up in the air and killing them with bayonets. So he could have been one of those babies, and also there was a time when he was in Vietnam during the war, and I think if memory serves, he was supposed to stand watch, and either the person that stood watch before him got killed by a sniper, or the person after him. I forgot which is which, but you know that could have been him as well. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I would love to have him recount those, you know, those stories because, you know, those are important touchstones, and I guess in my history as well.
I have one of the things, you know, one of the projects that I want to bring up to the mobile film stories that has to do with something similar to what you're talking about, to bringing the stories of parents and grandparents and having, you know, teenagers and younger people and children, literally, interview them using smartphone cameras and produced the small documentaries which share the stories that their grandparents can give. And the reason for that is, and I've been working on this for many years, I'm still trying to get people to get involved here in San Diego with different organizations, because there's such a disconnection between grandchildren and grandparents. They're sort of strangers to a lot of families, you know. They're over there and they're old type thing, you know, and, you know, what would they know? How could I connect with them? That kind of a thing. But I think they deserve a lot of respect because they've gone through so many things, but their own grandchildren and even perhaps their own children don't know about.
That's very true.
Yes. And I know when I was growing up, my grandmother used to share stories with me, and it really brought her to life. She, you know, lost her husband when my mom was, I think she was 15 or 16 years old. And my mom was the youngest. And she never really recovered from that. And so for that, I mean, I just remember her sitting by the window, and I would come in and say, "Hey, Grandma, tell me a story." And then she would just light up and she would share stories. And she's the reason, part of the reason, probably the biggest reason why storytelling has been one of probably my biggest passion that's led me to everything that I do today. But to have the elders in the community share stories with their families and the younger people, I think would value their place in society more and better than ever. And I think that's really necessary. I don't think we should leave elder people to just sort of deteriorate and treat them like, well, your time has gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's come and gone. You know, no, it hasn't gone. They're still a part of everything. They're just a different age, but their stories are so valuable. And I just think that their grandchildren would have a newfound respect for their grandparents if they had went through the process of interviewing. Because it's one thing to sit down and listen, but to actually create a video, there's a lot of repetition involved and a lot of attention to detail that's involved with that would give them an even better perspective as to the stories that they're listening to.
I think that that sounds like an incredible initiative, and I feel that because I didn't have a chance to grow up knowing my grandparents. I mean, I met them a few times when I went to the Philippines to visit, but other than those few times that I went there, I didn't get a chance to know them really. So I think that'd be incredible to witness and watch.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I want to bring this to the mobile stories, mobilefilmstories.com platform is because a lot of times people make videos, right? And they sit around on their hard drives. But to bring into that platform would share these stories, online. And you know what they say, once you put it online, it's always there.
Right.
So no matter what happens to your hard drive, but it's, I think it would be very inspiring for them, to go to them and say, hey, Grandma, I remember that video we made. It's over here. And then share that with them and then have them watch that, and I think it would be just such a great gift to them. And it would be also a gift that they can give to their children and their grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. And Mobile Film Stories is something that you launched recently, and it's I guess in a nutshell, it's a space for mobile filmmakers to share their stories. Is there anything else you want to sort of add to it?
Yeah, I think it would be great to have more people interact with each other on the Quad, which is the public forum space for the community, mobile filmmaking community that's part of that platform. I'm trying to think of there's so much to it.
Yeah, I think in lieu of since we're not having a live festival this year, I think having more people, more filmmakers from around the world, coming into the Quad and participating, because we do miss that networking aspect of a live event. So I think having that networking opportunity in the Quad can definitely help a lot of people.
Yeah, we in that MFF 2021 San Diego.com. If you go there, you'll see that there's a little section there about the virtual lobby for the film festival, and that's actually on the Quad. It's a free registration. You create a little profile for yourself, and then you go in there and you can have conversations. You can literally tag other filmmakers to notify them that you're addressing something to them. One of the things that happened in our film festival is, and this, Aaron, people connect and they make really long-term friendships there, but also people have connected and collaborated on projects together, and they support each other. And one of the cool things about having a unique platform like that, just where people can connect online, right? And not be a fish in the ocean, right? Like you are on Twitter. A lot of times you get a lot of people who just look and read things, but they don't want to comment, right, on Twitter because it's so big, right? There's so many people, it's very public and everybody can see it and they feel apprehensive where we don't have millions of people on this platform. And it's basically for mobile filmmaking ideas and stories and conversations really with each other. So I'm hoping that if you're into that, or if you're even curious about it, that you will go there and take advantage of it, because that's what we built it for. Outside of that, there's the streaming of the films, where you can watch films shot with mobile phones, and some of them are pay-per-view films. And by watching the pay-per-view films, you are supporting the filmmakers. We split the revenues with the filmmakers that come in. So the more people that go there and watch these films, the better. And if you're one of the filmmakers on the platform, start sharing the fact that you're there. Get people to watch the films there for you.
Exactly.
And there's no ads.
No ads, that's right.
Yeah. I forget to say that, but that is, ever since YouTube did that thing where like they're going to put ads everywhere, right?
Uh-huh.
It's for short films, and all films really, it's so annoying when you're creating content for somebody to slap an ad in the middle of it or at the beginning to have to wait for that. I mean, it's a little bit of an insult. and you're not really getting much out of that. You're not getting enough for you to go, oh well, I'm getting something. It'll add up for me, because it's not enough. Not on YouTube, anyways.
Right. And also, you've been pretty active on Clubhouse. I think you've been sort of on what do you call? You don't call them chats, do you? What do you call them?
They're rooms,
yeah, rooms.
But they're events,
okay,
as well.
Yeah, and I think you've been sort of collaborating with Rob Montgomery and a few others.
Yeah, through the so every Wednesday there's a mobile journalism lounge, and every Wednesday at noon. I think the latest there were a couple that were at 1. Or maybe 1 was at 1.
I think.
No,
I think I remember one time that I went. It was 1:00.
Yeah, and I think it was up after the time change though. But normally they're at noon and on Wednesdays, and I think it's a pretty fun place to go to and just kind of hang out as mobile filmmakers and storytellers. The thing about journalism is that they're really revolving around stories more, believe it or not, than filmmakers in some way. Because a lot of the filmmakers are making music videos and experimental films and things like that, but they're really more just about stories, right, as far as their genre is concerned. So the conversation does revolve around the stories, and then they talk about tools that mobile journalists use, and they're not just for smartphones. They're also for GoPros, and I don't know what else there is really. iPods, maybe iPads,
iPads probably, yeah.
iPads, yeah. So I do that one, and then created a club. We were just talking about mobile film stories. So we created a club for that one. And every Sunday, I like to host an event there and bring up and invite people to come and listen, and then bring them up on stage, as they call it, to speak and talk and share their ideas as well. So
cool. Are there any other projects that you'd like to promote? Is there anything that we missed that you'd like our audience to know about?
Just don't forget those Tuesday tacos.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're good. Aaron, I might as well do this on your podcast, but I appreciate all the help and all the support you're giving, not just our film festival, but to the whole mobile filmmaking movement in general as well. Yes, I was your 4th episode on your podcast, but now you've got 200 or something?
102.
102. Well, I was close. Off by 100. But still, you are doing a really great thing as well, promoting art and giving a voice to artists and content creators. And so I appreciate that you're, on behalf of your own listeners who have not said anything to me yet, but I can tell that your support for them means a lot to them. And so if you're one of Aaron's listeners and you agree with me, let him know.
That's much appreciated. And I think we both have an affinity for each other's. I mean, you come and support whenever there's a comic convention, whether it's the big one or the local one. You're always there as well, especially with the independent creators. So I think we both have an affinity to support as many independent creators as possible.
I really enjoy the people, all the geeks in the community. I love meeting people, but what I love about the community, the comic book creators and the cosplayers and everyone there, aside from all the hugs, is the fact that they're all down-to-earth people. They're very welcoming, and they're good people. They're not people. I love to talk with people, even if I don't know them. And when I approach them and say, you can feel when people are just listening, sort of rolling their eyes or something, and they're all very genuinely interested in each other and what each other has to say, even me. So I appreciate you introducing a lot of them to me, and I can't let this end without mentioning Keithan Jones.
Oh yeah, Keithan Jones. He's the man.
Yeah. And honestly, whenever I talk to him on the phone, I've talked to him for hours.
He has a lot to say himself.
Well, you know what? He's really cool, and he says some pretty interesting things, and I love the way he thinks. What can I say?
like Keith, like you, both. I haven't known Keithan for a long time either, but it seems like I've known him for a while. Just like it seems like I've known you for a while. So I think I think
it's because we share. We're okay with sharing in-depth conversations, and I think that's, we were talking about the podcast, right? The SBP podcast and things like that. And I'm sure it happens to you too, where the conversations that you have with people in the podcast, a lot of the people, not a lot, I shouldn't say that, but some of the people that I have on the podcast, I've never met before.
Oh yeah, like in person.
Yeah. Or even had a conversation with them, And so when we talk on the podcast, I feel like we become friends.
Right.
And I think they say that they feel the same way, that it was a very comfortable experience for them, that they really enjoyed it. And and usually the conversation that we have after the podcast is also pretty awesome. I think Jennifer Zhang, from Sharon, from our feature film, had her on the podcast. We had a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it.
After. Yeah, but we also had a conversation after the podcast.
Right.
And the same thing happened with Patrick and Powell from the podcast, their film Threshold, the other feature film. And we hung out and talked for a while after. I had a lot of laughs. Those two guys are so funny. They're awesome. And then also Amanda and Colin from the music video that I interviewed. Those guys, oh my God, that was a very enjoyable conversation. So all three of those, we made friends with each other. It's just great. And more to come too, because I just haven't had time to interview anymore, but I plan to have more on our podcast as well.
Definitely. So I encourage our Hall H Show listeners to follow you. So where are the best places to follow you online?
I would definitely say Twitter. If you go to Twitter, Susy, Susy Botello, and I'm sure you'll share something with that.
Yeah, I'll put all your
as well.
I'll put most of your social media links on.
Also follow the Mobile Film Festival on with no E, MOBIL. Just think of Exxon. That on Facebook, and then Mobile Film SD on Instagram. Those are the three top ones. And honestly, I'm on the quad, guys.
Yes, definitely. Go check out the quad. Susy, it's been awesome talking to you. Although we do talk almost every day, I think.
But it's always like we've never spoken. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show. It means a lot, and I know you're busy. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And again, thanks for your support. And we'll have to create one big kick butt event after COVID where we bring the listeners from our podcast, the mobile filmmaking community, and the comics and content creators communities together and have one big joint event. What do you think?
This sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Awesome. I'm down.
Cool. I guess we'll close out the show. Thank you for listening to the Hall H Show podcast, and thank you so much to our guest, Susy Botello. Please give her a follow and prepare to be amazed with over exactly 53 mobile films from around the world that will be available to watch at the International Mobile Film Festival, which takes place online this year between April 23rd and 25th, 2021. I can't wait. And make sure you stay up to date by going to mff2021sandiego.com. We love putting the spotlight on independent pop culture creatives. If you have a suggestion for a potential guest, please let us know. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, and our website, hall-h.com. If you believe in our mission to be the voice of independent creators, we would appreciate a rating, hopefully 5 stars, and a comment on Apple Podcasts. And please spread the word on social media using the hashtag HallHShow. Peace, cheers, stay safe out there. And if you have a story you've been itching to tell, consider creating a movie with your smartphone.